benvenuti alla seconda giornata del Forum Cyber 4.0, edizione del 2026. Ieri abbiamo concluso una giornata particolarmente ricca di spunti e di interessanti stimoli anche per l'azione futura del nostro centro di competenza. Abbiamo avuto modo di affrontare un po' tutte le iniziative che il centro ha intrapreso in ambito nazionale e abbiamo avuto modo anche di discutere di diversi temi, tra cui ovviamente fortemente citato e fortemente interrelato al tema della cybersecurity, anche quello della sovranità e delle relazioni internazionali che si stanno complicando in modo abbastanza difficile da interpretare anche nel dominio cyber. E allora questa seconda giornata è dedicata invece alle iniziative che il centro sviluppa e svilupperà in ambito internazionale e quindi abbiamo predisposto una serie di panel e di argomenti di discussione che faciliteranno un po' non solo la presentazione di quello che fa il centro, ma anche una proiezione su quello che potrà essere il prossimo futuro, sia per le attività del centro stesso, ma anche per l'azione dei soci e di tutto l'ecosistema cyber nazionale. Let me therefore switch to English, because the day will be held 90% in English, all the sessions. So, and let me welcome our international guests here. We will start with a session dedicated to geopolitics and European strategic autonomy. This is a very sensitive topic. This is something that yesterday has been confirmed as one of the most compelling challenges in the current scenario. How to ensure that we are going on the right path towards the European strategic autonomy, but also what does this mean? Can we really get rid of technologies that are now extremely pervasive and that are coming from contexts that are not European, or this is not the right way to interpret and to understand what autonomy might mean? So these are topics that we believe are not only interesting as an argument for debate, but also are driving the action that the Cybersecurity Competence Center might undertake in the next future. So to kickstart this day, I am very pleased to invite on the stage the excellent speakers for the first session. And in particular, I would like to call Ambassador Massimo MAROTTI, who is the Director of the Strategy and Cooperation Service of the National Cybersecurity Agency. Alexandra-Adina ASGARI, representative from the European Cybersecurity Competence Center. Luca MASSARELLI, who is AI specialist at the DG Connect, the EU AI office of the European Commission. And Lina Areng, who is director of EU Cybernet and director of LUCCHETTI from the ICT Agency of Estonia. Very good. So, a very sensitive topic, as we said, and something that needs the correct reading of the international scenario. So I would start with Ambassador MAROTTI on international cooperation and European strategic autonomy and how these is somehow connected to the current geopolitical scenario. So in recent years, Italy has very significantly, I would say, expanded its role in European and international cybersecurity landscape and cooperation. Many initiatives, both in the context of the European Union, in the context of the G7, but also at national level to prepare the ground for a better international cooperation. But still we have this challenge, because Europe continues to face a structural dependence on non-European technologies, as we said, and also security providers in several critical domains. So how would you read this scenario from the ACN perspective, from the perspective of the National Cybersecurity Agency? And how would you assess the current geopolitical context? What contributions can Italy actually bring to the broader goal of European strategic autonomy?
Good morning. I would like to thank Luis for the invitation and for very pleased to attend this forum today. In the last week, I've been attending several meetings in Tokyo and Paris, and the issue of geopolitical context in the current competitive world has been at the center of discussion, and I see that this opportunity to share with you some of the ideas that have been discussed currently, also thanks to the several important decisions that have been taken at European level, at international level. Is 2 days ago, the White House came out with a new executive order which regards the advanced AI models. Now, the context behind all this activity is can be seen from several angles. I always prefer to strike the point that all cybersecurity goes around the issue of economic security. Last year, in a very successful book, Edward Fishman, an expert of economic wars, expressed the concept of impossible trilogy. He states that we cannot have at the same time geopolitical competition, economic integration, and economic security. In every single phase of history, you can have two of them, but not three of them at the same time. During the Cold War, geopolitical competition was certainly there. There was no economic integration, but there was economic security. Each bloc felt secure in this sense. After the crisis of globalization, today we have certainly a level of competition, geopolitical competition, pretty high. We still have economic integration, but the sense of economic security has been lost in the process. So what are the consequences of this effect? How cybersecurity influences the economic security in a competitive world? When we have the superpower of the time, of our age, US and China competing at any level, politically, economically, technologically also, the superpower of an age require normally three things. They require allies, they require space and territories where they can compete and contest the adversary power. They require to increase their wealth and their prestige. This is a law of the jungle, if you want. It always has been this way, and is true also nowadays. Now, all the other states, all the other governments, this, I think, is the question that we have to ask. What do they have to do in front of this competing scenario? And this is both at the single state level or State of the Union level as well. Well, status quo is not an answer. In my view, when there is this competition, each single state, each single government has to analyze what's going on. The dynamic of competition involve, as a consequences, a cascade effect. We will have states that will accumulate power in the process, and state which risks to lose power, economic power, in this process. Because each government is always stuck in the inherent tension between two imperatives. The imperatives of safety, you can say economic security for a community, and the other imperative is not to bear the costs that involve a reduction of the economic vitality. This is the fundamental choice for a government, any single government, in relative terms, when there is this huge competition internationally. These are the fundamental questions that they have to ask. And if status quo imply the acceptance of the distribution of power, economic power, internationally, status quo cannot be an option, otherwise any state will lose opportunity and will bear more cost for the inactivity. And that's why you hear repeatedly from declaration, document, strategy papers, the search for international cooperation, collaboration with the private sectors. These are the two common expressions nowadays. But it's important to understand why are these the solutions that many government and institutions are emphasizing today. It is exactly for what I said before, because there is this inherent process that is a consequence of the dramatic choice that we have today to face this global competition and to protect the economic security in the process. The international cooperation, of course, starts in the immediate vicinity of a state. So you will have a European government looking for more cooperation within the Union. In the case of Italy, within the G7, which is another format where those issues have been discussed, at least for the past 2 years, and in a larger format eventually. The second point is the collaboration with the private sector is also influenced by the geopolitical context that we have. Not only because the private sector is international by definition, is dominated by companies or corporations which have a global perspective, they operate globally in the market and they compete globally in the market as much as the states do in the political and economical area. So one interesting point is that while states and corporations, companies, share the same theater, the same arena of this competition, not necessarily they share the same geopolitical views or necessities or requirements as the private sector, of course, is influenced mainly by the success of their business or the surviving business environment, and the state are, of course, their action is dominated by the necessity, the constraint of the geopolitical competition. But since the two subjects, state and private sector, public and private sector, are marching together or in a sort of parallel way, it is critical in this age that they both share the geopolitical context in order to have a significant partnership both at national level or international level. The scenario is complex. It's complicated by many influences, of course, but in my view, what we have to consider when we discuss international cooperation and collaboration, tight collaboration with the private sector, it is important that the two ideas, the geopolitical context that both communities have should narrow, should be shared, should be perceived in the same way for an effective process. I think I stop here and ready to answer any more comment or question. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Does it work? Yes. Thank you very much, Ambassador Marotti. Really interesting points, and especially in this context of Cyber 4.0, we appreciate a lot also the reference to the involvement of the private sector, because this is touching a very relevant point for us, and a crucial role in the intersection between EU policies and the involvement of private sector is certainly played by the European Cybersecurity Competence Center. So I would like to now move to our second speaker, Alexandra-Adina, to go a little bit deeper into what EU has been doing in this regard, and especially, I mean, we see that through the ECCC, the European Union is investing significant resources into building cybersecurity capacities in Europe. But still there is this dependency. So the way, let's say, we can interpret strategic autonomy is under debate. So looking at the current ECCC agenda, you drive the technological evolution somehow, but also the involvement of private sector. So what are the technological domains that you believe are the highest priority for Europe in this moment to be developed internally, so to try to pursue strategic autonomy over the next years? And how should public funding support the scaling of cybersecurity companies in Europe?
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So first of all, thank you for the invitation very much on behalf of the CCC and our director, Mr. Luca. And I'm happy that I could represent the center here today in this very important and timely discussion. So just as a reminder and a bit of a background of what the CCC is, so the European Cybersecurity Competence Center is still a relatively new EU body. We were established by regulation in 2021 and only became operational in 2023. And we have this very important task of really moving forward, I would say, research and innovation and industrial policy in the area of cybersecurity. So in doing this, we are not alone. So the center also functions with a network of national coordination centers. The same regulation that established the center established these national coordination centers that have a mandate at national level to bring together the national communities and the initiatives to the European level and the European funding existing at the European level. And more importantly, what the center is doing is we are managing the cybersecurity funds under Digital Europe and Horizon Europe programs. So meaning that the center launches competitions, calls for proposals, and then projects are selected and then funded based on these different priorities. Now, when we look at the center's priorities and the agenda, we follow the recommendations that are set out in the strategic agenda. This was developed by the center in cooperation with the member states, with the Commission, and the policymakers. That sets out specific recommendations in relation to research and then deployment of cybersecurity solutions, tools, and the way ahead. So from the center's perspective, it's not really about what we can start from scratch, where we start from zero, but rather how to scale up what we're already doing and how to implement it at a broader European level. And I can tell you in terms of technological priorities, what the center has focused on so far. I would say there are three main priorities. So the security operations centers and their capabilities. The center has funded, and we had different calls for proposals for security operations centers, be it private, but also at national level, and more importantly, at cross-border level. The center is focusing very much now on the cyber hubs, so national cyber hubs and cross-border cyber hubs, that are these spaces of sharing information. And in terms of the technology used now, the accent is more and more, of course, on AI-driven detection and the automated SOCs, so automated security operation capabilities. And this area, I would say it's a very important area of investment, because here is where dependency is really more seen on an operational level, so dependency on the tools and the providers supporting the operation of these SOCs. Then we have also cyber threat intelligence platforms that the center has also been supporting. And the idea would be here, the priority, how we would see it, is to move from fragmented information sharing to a more structured information sharing in terms of cyber threats, a more interoperable systems, and why not to a EU federated infrastructure in terms of information sharing capabilities. I would also speak about securing critical infrastructure and digital infrastructure. So with the center, we supported, for example, projects looking at 5G and 6G technologies, cloud infrastructure, but as well as, of course, priority sectors from the critical infrastructure. Now, the center is not building itself, neither critical infrastructure nor hyperscalers, but we support the digital layer supporting these critical systems and sectors. And I can give examples. For example, we had calls supporting specifically the healthcare sector and the undersea cables. We just finished a call now by which we supported the creation of regional hubs for undersea cables, so their cybersecurity, ensuring that there's also communication regarding the threats and as much as possible real-time detection and answer to these challenges. As a horizontal task, let's say, that the ECCC has, so the center, it is to support SMEs, support them to become scalers, support them to have their solutions not only at a prototype level, but also available on the market. So support their market uptake, basically, and deployment. And how is this translated, for example, in our DEP cybersecurity work program? So for the years ahead, we are going to focus on three main objectives, which is, as I said, and related to what we've already done, building on emerging technologies and new technologies, so AI-based solutions, AI-based tools, also for the hubs and for the SOCs, but also deployed by SMEs. Or post-quantum encryption, so transition to post-quantum cryptography for the public and the private sector. This is another important focus of the center's funding. The second part is this support to the implementation of the Cyber Solidarity Act, which we see the creation of the cyber hubs that are supposed to create and that will create these European cyber alert system, but also the emergency mechanism, the emergency mutual assistance mechanism established under the Cyber Solidarity Act. So again, the center funds different projects aimed at supporting these capabilities. We also have another objective, so the third objective is dedicated to SME resilience and compliance. Here we look at entering into compliance with EU legislation, specifically for SMEs, the Cyber Resilience Act, or at building sectoral resilience. And here we have, again, specific sectors, healthcare, regional hubs, energy, or other sectors of the critical infrastructure. And I can tell you what we aim to do with the center in terms of supporting all this, let's say, movement forward. And we know this as a priority, so we would like to see a really going from projects and, let's say, solutions that are not really related to building real capabilities, so not only building SOCs as projects, but creating real capabilities at European level and the sharing of this, this information. We would also look still at supporting the SMEs and have them, help them become these scalers and these providers of technologies that are further used in the market. And another important part that we hear a lot coming from the projects and from the beneficiaries and from the applicants to our projects is how to simplify access to funding, how to make it less complicated, less complex, or perhaps sometimes administratively burdensome, especially for SMEs to have access to this funding. We are addressing this at one point, on the one side, by the national coordination centers that offer financial support to third parties. So there are smaller grants available through our network of NCCs. But this will be also further addressed at a more, let's say, higher level in the next multi-annual financial framework and the competitiveness fund that also aims to simplify the process, so to really help and support participants who want to apply to funding to have a clear, streamlined process and not be discouraged by these administrative processes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, a lot of initiatives, and actually we have witnessed ourselves this switch from the EU funding research projects and platforms that were a little bit more in the research area to concrete projects and concrete assistance for the implementation of the EU policies and EU legislation. So you highlighted the building of security operation centers at national and cross-border level, cyber threat intelligence, and support to the SMEs as priorities. This gives us smooth transition to the next question that I would like to ask to Luca Massarelli, who is AI specialist and from the EU AI office. So, speaking about AI, yesterday we had a whole session on AI, but also in several other sessions, let's say that the big topic of the moment is Anthropic's project, Glasswing, and Mythos. So Mythos demonstrated how frontier AI systems can identify vulnerabilities at a scale that is very difficult to follow and a speed that can actually change the balance between attackers and defenders and the way we intend security. So this is something that is to be dealt with urgency. And there are reports, I think less than 1 month ago, this project Glasswing came out with a report on what they found, and it was striking, thousands of vulnerabilities that were confirmed also as severe vulnerabilities. So from the European Commission's perspective, do you think that current EU policies and regulation are adequate to deal with this scenario? Or there are gaps that are emerging at the intersection between AI and cybersecurity, and how we could deal with that?
So thank you very much for the invitation. It's an honor for me to be here today, and thank you very much also for this question. And Mythos is keeping me busy in these days, but I think that, as anyone knows, it has been really a warning shot for the whole cybersecurity landscape. And the first remark that I want to tell you now, before answering the question, is that it's not only about Mythos. Other models with advanced cyber capabilities have been released and might be released soon. And this model has also started to be integrated into security tools. And it's important that organizations start to use all of these available models, even open source one, to secure, their code and their infrastructure. But for answering to your question, Matteo, my short answer is no. I don't think there is any gap, and let me explain why. In Europe, we have been we are the first place in the world that have created rules for very capable AI model, such as Claude Mythos Preview. And this shows how proactive has been our current regulatory framework. Clearly, ensuring an oversight of this frontier AI model is one of our main priority, as well as securing our critical infrastructure. The European AI Act require actually that provider that plays on the market general purpose AI model with systemic risk assess and mitigate the risk that can actually arise from the AI capabilities of their model. And this require applies independently of where the provider has its headquarters. Coming to Mythos, this is exactly what we are seeing with Mythos. The risk that comes from Mythos is not the risk that comes from a vulnerability of the model, a flaw that a model has in it, but the risk comes from its very advanced cybersecurity capability that an attacker can misuse in order to conduct a cyber attack with an unprecedented scale or speed. And this rule actually addresses exactly this kind of risk. What the provider are required to do are some practical and clear rules that have been operationalized through the safety and security chapter of the Code of Practice for General Purpose AI that we have facilitated the development last year. And this is not only theory. These rules already apply from 1 year, and we will start the enforcement of this rule in 2 months. So within 2 months, the AI office can actually take enforcement measure on the provider that does not comply with this rule. This measure can be requesting more information, but also requesting access for running evaluation, and then requiring the provider to take mitigation measure, issuing fine, and in extreme cases also restrict the model on the market. We think that the value of accessing the single European market for companies is really high, and therefore this gives to the AI office a very strong leverage to make sure that providers are compliant with this rule, and in this way we can actually prevent a responsible release. But frontier capabilities will not stop with Mythos. The race is running very fast, and probably soon we will have other models. Even open source one can be, open source model have now a 12 months gap, more or less, from the frontier, and nothing can prevent us to say that in 12 months or less we can have open source model with Mythos-like capability. And this is really why we need to act now. Even if our policies are adequate, we need to prepare for this new change in the risk landscape. And for this reason, AVP Virkunen announced a few weeks ago in the European Parliament that we are preparing a plan on AI and cybersecurity. This plan will actually contain some practical action in order to support member state companies in Europe to address this risk and to bolster our development of advanced cybersecurity capabilities. The plan will complement and leverage the existing current future-proof cybersecurity framework that we have, building on the AI Act, NIS2, then the CRA, as well as on the proposed revision of the Cybersecurity Act. In the longer term, we aim to encourage Europe and to support European companies to actually develop advanced and innovative technologies that can really meet all of these challenges. Let me now conclude my answer also with a remark on the importance of international cooperation. That is also one of the main topics of this panel. In the AI safety unit of the AI office, to which I'm very proud to be part, we are also part of the international network of advanced AI measurement, evaluation, and science. This is a forum where there is a strong international collaboration among all the participants of this network for developing capacity and methodology for evaluating frontier AI model. And we actually are learning a lot from this network, and we are participating actively in regular and fruitful exchanges, also in person.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So policies are there, but of course there is the urgency to act and to strengthen cooperation between major players. Very good. So let's move now to the fourth speaker, Lina, and thank you for coming again to our forum. You are a very appreciated presence in our discussions, also because we believe that EU CyberNet is somehow the flagship initiative of the European Union on international cyber capacity building. So this is going to be the topic of my question. So we heard about a very complex geopolitical environment, and in this environment, cyber capacity building has become already for some years much more than just technical assistance. It is increasingly intertwined with strategic influence, resilience building, diplomatic engagement with other countries. And this is also the reason why EU and member states, including Italy actually, are investing more and more resources into supporting partner countries in particular areas such as Western Balkans, Eastern Partnership, Africa, Latin America, Indo-Pacific, and many regions that we will address in the following of this day. So from your perspective, how much this is important, so cyber capacity building extra the European borders in this geopolitical context, and how can this be used more effectively to strengthen long-term diplomatic ties and relationships with partner countries?
Thank you very much, Matteo, and thank you very much for the invitation to join this distinguished panel, and congratulations to Cyber 4.0 for the fourth iteration of this annual forum, which is always a good reason to come to Rome. Yesterday when I was sitting in the hall and admiring these pillars there, I was thinking that what would be the most perfect place to discuss European cybersecurity architecture than in this room. And indeed, cyber capacity building forms one of these pillars that support European security architecture, and it is a soft power that ensures that Europe is relevant and competitive globally. And in this difficult times or difficult geopolitical environment, what Europe projects is credibility and also predictability, which is based on trust that is created over long-term relationships, and obviously external cyber capacity building, working with our partners and sharing our values that they see benefits in following is a very important aspect to build this trust. And this is European core strength, along with diversity. And in Europe we see diversity sometimes as a challenge because it creates problems in differences of opinion, coordination, cooperation problems. But our partners perceive it differently. And for example, EU CyberNet manages a expert pool, pan-European pool of cybersecurity experts, and a community, cybersecurity community, of which Cyber 4.0 is also part of. And this pool brings experiences from 27 different digital transformations. So our partner countries, they do not need to become Italy or Estonia or even Ukraine, although we admire Ukraine a lot and their achievements in extremely rapid digital transformation and becoming a true cyber powerhouse. But our partner countries have a selection to choose what or kind of combine from these experiences and knowledge that we share their own digital transformation ecosystem. And Europe indeed projects trust, and this is especially visible in the regulatory sphere. Again, in Europe we complain that EU regulates too much, but when we talk to our partner countries, then they are very aware and very interested to learn more about the European cybersecurity regulations and also the directive NIS2, Cyber Resilience Act, Cybersecurity Act, AI Act, and also the plan as well. So, and this is not just purely academic interest, but this is economic interest, because it already indirectly affects them through supply chains, through trade and procurement and cloud ecosystems. And the reasoning is probably that if European standards become relevant anyhow, then they need to be aware of the standards and to adopt them in early phases. And cyber capacity building stands there as a delivery mechanism of explaining these standards, and most important thing is explaining and not projecting it mechanically, because then it can be perceived as some sort of regulatory imperialism, which we obviously don't want to project. And so how do we explain our regulatory logic to the partner countries, that cyber capacity building could be one of the core pillars of European position in global cybersecurity space, is that we need to explain the institutional logic and the implementation lessons from Europe. In cyber capacity building, what we can do is that we can assist to fill the gaps in people, in processes, and in technology. And exporting technology, unfortunately, is not yet Europe's core assets, but we can influence people and can influence processes. And by helping countries to make more informed decisions on what standards to follow and to also to depend on, we create or expand our space of like-mindedness and also European influence, and their private sector obviously plays a very important role. So I think Europe should be the one that and can be the one that inspires rather than intimidates. And also another thing, that perhaps the most important shift in the recent years in cyber capacity building is a conceptual one. That traditionally cyber capacity building has focused on development assistance and sharing European values along with the development assistance. But today we see that the objective is actually to promote this made in Europe business proposal and cultivate partners who see Europe as the world's leading source of expertise, of trustworthy digital transition. And European standards in many other domains than cybersecurity, such as automobile industry or engineering, have always been associated with quality and with trustworthiness. And now we see, hopefully, that Europe's kind of quality trademark will be also associated with this digital transition. And this is how cyber capacity building can explain the benefits to adopt these standards, adopt European models, and also to adopt European technology, because it is part of the Europe's value proposition, which is trust-based, predictable, and indeed supports and builds on these long-term relationships. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your vision on this changing scenario also in the international cyber capacity building approach. Now, just one last round, one last question, the same for all the speakers, and I would ask you to stay within 1 to 2 minutes reply. Let's assume, as I hope, we meet again in 2030 here in this wonderful place. And what would make you say that Europe has succeeded in strengthening its strategic position in cyberspace? And what instead would convince you that Europe has fallen behind? Ambassador.
I think that what Europe and European states are engaged today is in a terrible and dramatic effort to keep economic relevance of the unified market. We all, in a way, address this topic. Keep the relevance, contain the dependency. So if in 4 year times we will have succeed in this effort, this has to be, will be evaluated in relative terms to assess what is the relevance of Europe at that moment. What could there be, thinking today, the significant result? We can have many. In Tokyo last week, they were saying when we will see a significant private investment in the new technology. This could be a sign if there is a big scaler that evolved in these 4 years. This would have also empowered the European strategy to provide capabilities across the market to private potential scalers. This is one of the policies that Europe, in a unique way, is doing. To close the gap with the Americans or the Chinese competitors. So this could be a sign of success. But in general terms, the relevance of Europe within and European actors within the market will be, in my view, the sign of a success. There is not a dominant force, only one dominant force in a market open like the European one. We should see at that time the European component of this market, and this will sign, in my view, a success, if not a failure, or at least more time to struggle.
A non-success, not a failure, but a non-success. Thank you. Alexandra, what's your view?
So I tend to, of course, agree a lot with the ambassador. I would also add to it having in 5 years' time, hopefully a functioning SOC and cyber hub ecosystem to have at that time truly a common layer of cyber defense at European level. Again, looking also at reducing dependency in key areas, in key tools, in key structures, and in key solutions. So not to replace the other international players, not to replace the other providers, but to have a strong European dimension and to have a real European alternative to this. And also, I would like to see, and I hope we all see in 5 years, really European companies scaling globally and being competitive on the global market, which would mean from the ECCC perspective that really public funding will have translated into really policy and industrial capability to have European players present at in the global market. As opposed to that, what failure would look is to continue to have fragmentation or to continue to function in the paradigm of projects as opposed to capabilities and not have an orchestrated, strong European presence. That would be it for me.
Thank you. Luca, will we be overwhelmed by this vuln-apocalypse or will we survive?
my simple and best guess is that in 5 years, but probably even if in 6 months, Claude Mythos preview can be perceived like a dump. So we will have for sure more powerful and capable model. And this model will be available on the EU market, but we will have also open source model that will be available as well, and that can actually expand and democratize all of these advanced cyber capabilities. Also, probably the risk of this model could go beyond what we are currently experiencing in cyber and might affect other risk areas. When it comes to cybersecurity, I think that in 5 years we can be successful if we are able to adopt all what we can benefit from AI. So, for example, we have spoken of automation of SOC. This is clearly one important and useful use cases that can help us to bolster our defense. But at the same time, we will be successful if we are able to limit how attacker can actually use AI to target our systems. And I think that this is really possible only through international cooperation and alignment between our like-minded partners, and also through a proper implementation and enforcement of the existing rules. All of this combined with also the development of trustworthy and sovereign AI solutions that can actually empower defenders to use them at most.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Lina, tell us the last words.
And lots of pressure. Where I think we will survive, and well, definitely La Città Eterna will survive all apocalypses, and really hope that we will be here again in all human panel and not some AI cyber panel. What to add is that for me as a cyber capacity builder, I hope that in 4 years, well, Europe definitely stays relevant, is relevant today, and in 4 years even grows in relevance, and is a credible reference point for any digital, secure, trustworthy transformation. And cyber capacity building can also be a kind of litmus test for this shift, whether we are relevant, because and how can I see that is that if Europe is not only requested to provide financial support or technical assistance, but also help in designing the cybersecurity architecture, governance systems, strategic guidance, and in this way we understand that Europe has a strategic role globally to play, and seeing how other former like-minded partners where they're going, I think this gives us a lot of room to grow further. And also, if we can deliver capability support, not capacity building, but capability building, which is more focused on skills development and also collaboration between more equal partners, because our effort in cyber capacity building is also to support the partner countries to grow in maturity, so that they would be at our level to share actionable operational information, threat intelligence, etc. So this is more capability building level collaboration, and I hope that we can discuss about capability building and not only cyber capacity building in 4 years.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you once again to all the panelists. I think that this gave a very broad area of arguments that we can further explore during the day, and that can help us steer also the action of Cyber 4.0 in the international landscape. So thank you once again. And let me pass the floor now to our president, Paolo Spagnoletti, for the moderation of the next session.